What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, looks like Nintendo has one more event for us to wrap up 2021, that being an Indie World Showcase, and we expect to see a bunch of new and creative titles from smaller developers here today. We'll go over that. Also, we are going to be talking about a leak that is really starting to make the rounds now and catch a lot of interest from people after the Sonic Frontier reveal gave some legitimacy to it, because it also talks about Super Mario Odyssey 2. And we're also going to be going over a bunch of new Game Pass games heading to the service in the next 24 hours. Guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Chocobo GP. I'm sure fans of Chocobo Racing were really excited to see this game revealed during a Nintendo Direct. And now we have an official release date for it. We can see this trailer that was posted up by Square, where they say enjoy local and online multiplayer with friends in different and exciting modes. This includes an online knockout style tournament with up to 64 players in Chocobo GP mode. They also have a charming campaign and story mode where Chocobo and friends enter a racing tournament to grant their greatest wish. This will be releasing March 10th, 2022, so about 3 months from now, you'll be able to pick this one up. And looking at the trailer, I know it's obviously playing into the Chocobo Racing series there, but it does remind me, obviously, of Mario Kart, but also a bit of like Crash Team Racing. You see some Final Fantasy representation and characters in there as well. I'll be curious about maybe downloadable characters that they release going forward. It makes sense for this game to come out on the Switch, and coming out in March is great. Obviously, they're looking at the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe user base. Considering that's the best-selling game on the Switch, even if they get like a fraction of that buying this game, that'll be an overwhelming success, I would say, for Chocobo GP. So look forward to this one coming out in March. Also, we did get a release date for Winjammers 2, and this is one I've been looking forward to since they announced the game years ago. Fortunately, I won't have to wait too much longer. They put this trailer out. It is releasing January 20th, 2022. If you have not played the original Winjammers, you should. It is a lot of fun. It's pretty cheap. I think it's on like the PlayStation 4, the Vita, and the Switch. It is a blast, especially if you have like a friend come over and you guys can sort of just play locally, couch co-op. It's something we did a lot back in the day at some of the stores I would work in. We would hold like tournaments for Winjammers and always break down into like these nail-biting final rounds of the game, and it was just a lot of fun. I do like the look of Windjammers 2. They did a full beta to get some feedback around how the game played as well, so I do have a lot of confidence around the release for this game, and I'm excited to jump back in with the newest release for it coming out in January. So Windjammer fans, not too much longer, we'll have the new one. Oh, and a quick heads up, the Power On documentary, or the series, that Microsoft had announced during their anniversary live stream is now out there. It's on the Xbox official YouTube channel, and it's like a 6-part documentary, and it's very interesting. Like, I've been going through the first couple of episodes, and there's a lot of information in there that I had never heard about. I think the most interesting part so far is just the overall development of that original Xbox, from them having to convince some of the executives and higher-ups there to even talk with them, to actually stealing Windows from another department, stripping it down so that the Xbox would run much faster, and even impressing Bill Gates himself with how fast the Xbox would boot up. I'm still getting to the part where they're going to go over the red ring and then eventually the Xbox One release, because people were saying online that they were able to get Don Matrick in for this documentary series, and I'll be curious to see him reflect on the release of the Xbox One and his initial like presentation that he did for that console, and if he would have changed anything. But yeah, definitely check it out. Like I said, there's a lot of interesting insight into the development and release of the Xbox brand. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo's event that is scheduled for today. We can see this tweet here from Nintendo of America saying, get ready for a new Indie World Showcase arriving Wednesday, December 15th, 9 a.m. Pacific. That'll be noon Eastern. Tune in for a live stream featuring roughly 20 minutes of information on upcoming indie games headed to Nintendo's Switch. I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but I may as well. You're not going to see any big first-party titles from Nintendo here, and hey, you won't see a Smash character, so people can't even joke around about that. That's all done now. I just feel like even with these indie directs, people go in with very heightened expectations when it comes to Nintendo's games. Like, we should go into this expecting nothing but third parties, and if we get that really cool Cadence of Hyrule crossover where you do see some sort of first-party game representation from Nintendo with something like The Legend of Zelda, that's a nice bonus. This is a time for smaller developers and creators to really be put out there in the spotlight with generally some pretty creative and interesting, compelling even, games to take a look at, and a lot of times you'll have shadow drops. I mean, we had Axiom Verge 2 just come out of nowhere and just get dropped immediately on the eShop. That's one of my favorite things around these Indie World showcases is I think every time we've had a game release right away, and it's generally something that you may be like, oh, wow, that looks really cool, and then it's just out. So you can just go buy it and download it from there. Now, there are some standouts that we're still waiting to hear more about. Silk Song is on the top of everyone's list, I'm sure, right now, and mine as well. I'm hoping we finally see it here. I do wonder if it's maybe been upgraded to an official big Nintendo Direct, and maybe that's something they're holding off for like the first Direct of the year, January or February or something like that, or maybe even E3, but it could also headline something like an Indie World Showcase, and I think that'd be great. Sports Story is another one I'd like to see more of. I know they mentioned it's coming out in 2022 now, so it's not like gonna shadow drop release or anything like that, but I really like Golf Story, so I'd like to see more of this. I saw some people mention the Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, maybe just get a release date drop for that. So this could be an Indie World Showcase where we just see a lot of release dates, and I would be okay with that one, but obviously it's hard to predict what will be here, because these indie games just come out of nowhere, they show them off, and it's something you maybe wouldn't have even imagined was something that's possible or that someone would even be working on. So that's the part that's most exciting here, is you'll have some pretty cool new concepts introduced, and then typically you'll see big AAA developers and companies look at it and go, oh, that's a cool idea, let's do that. But either way, make sure you check that out later on today. Like I said, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and we'll see what we have. Next up, let's talk about this new leak that's been making the rounds. Well, actually, it's an older leak that people are now looking at as a more legitimate grouping of information from a survey that not only talked about Sonic Frontiers, but also Super Mario Odyssey 2. We can see this Reddit post where a person brought this up from 2019, where they said an anonymous post was made back in November 2019, where a user claimed to have made a survey for video games concept, including a new Sonic game and Super Mario Odyssey 2. This was posted up on 4chan, which of course is completely anonymous, but it does appear that the survey basically outlined the entire plot or idea and structure of Sonic Frontiers and where it takes place, that being Starfall Islands in one of the concepts. So it's pretty dead on accurate when it comes to that, which then of course means people are gonna look around at what else was in the leak, and that includes Super Mario Odyssey 2. There are a couple of different concepts that are shown off, one of which it does mention co-op, having Yoshi involved, Luigi, and 20 different locations. Now, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to think that Nintendo would be working on a new Mario game, a new 3D Mario game. Wow, what a concept, right? Nintendo's working on a new Mario game. Yeah. The thing that would be, I guess, surprising or interesting to people now, if this does turn out to be true, is if it is Super Mario Odyssey 2, if they do just a complete sequel to Super Mario Odyssey. They didn't really do any DLC, which I think caught some people off guard. We had the Luigi balloon stuff, which was fun, right? It was a nice little thing to add, but no substantial DLC for a game that sold pretty well. I mean, it was right up there with Game of the Year next to Breath of the Wild, which did get DLC. Now, as the day went on with this post, people started to look around and realize that some of the images in this survey, quote unquote, that was posted up on 4chan, like Concept K, was found to be just fan art that was taken from DeviantArt. They also realized that Goombas was misspelled as Gumbas, which is sort of funny. And then the Mario Odyssey screenshot came from a Reddit post that someone had made when they were playing Mario Odyssey with like the screenshot button on the Switch. that doesn't necessarily mean that this is not an actual survey that was put out there, as what'll happen is these different companies, Sega, Nintendo, will hire marketing to essentially run these surveys with lists that they've gathered of people who have common interest in something like video games. You know, you go through and you check off, okay, these are the systems that I own, these are the game types or genres that I'll play, and then you might get surveys randomly to kind of match up to that. Now, the marketing agency could be using just random images that they find online to at least add some sort of character next to what you are exactly doing the survey for. And yeah, they may misspell something like Goombas because they might not be as aware of the Mushroom Kingdom as, well, gamers would be. But that doesn't necessarily mean that any of these concepts would even be used. Typically, they'll just go out there, kind of gauge interest in some of these things, like a co-op Mario Odyssey. Would people really like that? Would they like Yoshi being involved, or 20 different kingdoms? Or would they like, say, an open world Mario game that could have been another survey that's been run? The thing that's strange is they talk about lawsuits and like NDAs. You typically just do a survey. You don't necessarily sign any kind of NDA, but who knows here? Maybe this was a serious one where Nintendo and Sega wanted to keep this stuff under wraps, but then you probably wouldn't do it online. You would call people in and you would bring them into a room and have them sign stuff in person, see stuff there, and then not take it with them, especially not send it to like their inbox in their email. But either way, we'll see how this turns out. I mean, one thing's for sure, Nintendo's working on another Mario game. I don't think that should shock anyone out there. Next up, let's talk about a bunch of new Game Pass games that are showing up in the next 24 hours. This was just posted up on the Xbox website, and we can see starting at the top here with Among Us. This is for the cloud specifically. That was a little weird to just see it just show up as a cloud option, but there you go. That is out now on December 15th. Then we move up to December 16th when a ton of games just will be dropped onto the service. Starting at the top with Ben 10 Power Trip, that's cloud, console, and PC. Broken Age, cloud, console, and PC. Firewatch, that's cloud, console, and PC. The Gunk, that is available day and date. So day one, it's on Game Pass, that being tomorrow on the 16th, cloud, console, and PC. I'll be checking that one out, actually. It looked kind of interesting from what they were showing. I'm still not 100% sure as to how the game itself is going to play, but hey, it's on Game Pass. Might as well give it a download and see for myself. Then we have Lake, that's cloud, console, and PC. Mortal Kombat 11, that was a nice surprise. Cloud, console, and PC. Certainly worth checking out on Game Pass if you have not already done so with something like Mortal Kombat 11. Paw Patrol Mighty Pups Save Adventure Bay, that's cloud, console, and PC. Race with Ryan, that's cloud, console, and PC. Then we have Record of Lotus War, Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth, cloud, console, and PC. And then Transformers Battlegrounds, cloud, console, and PC. I think Transformers Battlegrounds was a bit odd because that's like I think it's like a strategy style game. I did see some previews for this, saw some screenshots, and I was like, maybe I'll grab it if it's on sale. I have not yet, so again, there it is on Game Pass. I guess I can pick it up then. They also outlined some new Xbox Game Pass Ultimate perks, which includes the Halo Infinite multiplayer, where they have past tense MA40 AR bundles. So you'll get a coating for the assault rifle, as well as 2 experience boosts and 4 challenge swaps. I also want to point out some of the games that will be leaving December 31st, because there's some pretty good ones in there, unfortunately, being pulled down. That does include Pro Evolution Soccer 2021, The Little Acre, Yakuza 0, Yakuza Kiwami 1, and Kiwami 2. So those games take a little while to get through, but if you've been thinking about playing them off of Game Pass, you're going to want to do that sooner rather than later. The unfortunate aspect of these subscription services, games come in, but then they can also leave towards the end of the month. So just keep an eye on that one with the Yakuza series. Otherwise, though, pretty good, I would say, for Game Pass. I will be checking out the Gunk and Mortal Kombat 11. I already have it on the PlayStation, but there we go. We can download it there. And I guess this Transformers game, I might as well check out that one. But certainly, I'll be on the Gunk as soon as that releases tomorrow. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a bit of a follow-up to the story yesterday, which had to do with the PlayStation 4 being jailbroken, and we'll see if that does indeed follow up to the PlayStation 5. However, people are pointing out a bunch of different uses now for the PS4 when it's jailbroken. We can see this over on Twitter from Lance McDonald saying the latest PlayStation 4 jailbreak release means that any PS4 console that has not downloaded a firmware update in the last 14 days can now freely play PT, regardless of whether or not you ever owned or played it legitimately in the past. Software preservation rules. In fact, this was one of the biggest reasons people were trying to, I would say, hack their PlayStation 4, because there were still methods before technically to get one. And I know a lot of people were talking about being able to get PT and play it again finally, or there was like that Bloodborne 60 FPS patch. And of course, people will do emulation ROMs, and yeah, they'll also pirate games, which is one of the reasons that Sony, I'm sure, is really keeping an eye on this one to shut it down if it gets out of control, specifically if it finds its way onto the PlayStation 5. It's going to be a year for Sony if the PS4, this jailbreak continues to evolve, and eventually they start hearing about how Horizon Forbidden West is just being downloaded online, and God of War and Gran Turismo. So we'll see how they react to that. But I like the idea of things like PT, which is a demo that was just completely removed to still be preserved, as long as, of course, you have a jailbroken PS4. But I have seen more and more people talk about doing this as we've gone along here since it released online. And, well, at least it's one way to get back some of the games that were pulled down, or in this case, demos like PT. And before we go to the comment of the day, we take a little poll I posted up yesterday where I asked, have you played Bully before? 66% said no. Wow. Okay, so the reason I brought this up is because there's a pretty serious rumor going around right now that Bully 2 was not only in development, it was actually going to be shown recently, potentially at the Game Awards. I know we always hear like, oh, it was going to be shown there and then it was pulled last minute, but apparently there's like a presentation or slides that are going around right now and could actually end up being a news story released in the next week or two. So I guess keep an eye out for some Bully stuff maybe. I'm very hopeful because the original Bully was awesome. The problem we run into right now is it's not necessarily easy to get and play Bully well. Like, they moved it to the 360, and that might still be the best way to play it, because on PC, you have to look towards like community mod support, and the controller stuff is all over the place. And that's one of the biggest things now, is we need a full remaster of Bully on the current platforms: Switch, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and don't do what you did with the Grand Theft Auto Trilogy, the Definitive Edition. We want Bully to actually be good. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Curious Gamer saying, if the supply chain is disrupted like this for much longer, this generation might last longer than usual, especially for Nintendo being the next one to release a system, whilst capacity of fabs in near limits and the Switch system selling huge numbers anyway. Doesn't make much sense to stop those fabs, retool them for a new system, and lose unit sales whilst things get up to speed. Microsoft and Sony, on the other hand, might want to keep it going longer to increase sales. Yeah, I think the PS5 and the Xbox Series generation will last a bit longer. They could do some sort of pro release down the road to continue to extend this generation, but because of the slow start now, I think they might look for this to be somewhere between an 8 to 10 year, that's right, 8 to 10 year generation. For the Switch, that's going to be one to follow. Will Nintendo consider moving to a more powerful system in the next 2 to 3 years, or could they extend this? Because you also have to think of the supply chain issues also spilling over into a potential higher price than even Nintendo was considering for the Switch. Prices around like raw goods and materials continues to increase. So we talk about like a $400 Switch, but what if just the overall price of things push that up to $450? Is that something Nintendo wants to jump into right away, or see if they can get a bit more runway out of this current generation and wait for prices to stabilize and hopefully go down a little further? And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. There's the Indie World Showcase happening later on today. Let me know your best predictions as to what we're going to see down in the comments. And then also, what about this whole thing around Super Mario Odyssey 2? Do you think Nintendo's going to do a direct sequel to Mario Odyssey, or do they just go with a brand new 3D Mario game? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.